Hey guys, another video for a buying a house in Japan playlist. We've got another project on at the old Japanese farmhouse. So we're at the front of the house, and this gable faces north, and it's the only wall, it's the only part of the house that we never painted. And it was just because it's so delicate. We don't want to stand on the tiles, because those tiles, you put a 90-kilogram fat man up there, unskilled labourer up on that roof, and a good chance the tiles will crack. This roof here is plastic or fiberglass, not really sure, and it's looking dodgy, and definitely don't want to put the fat man up on there. So for that reason it was just never touched, and it's the north side, so it doesn't get beaten up by the sun as much as the rest of the house, so it was sort of left, but starting to get a bit worried about it. So decided to have a crack at that north end, and also at that plastic roof, try and tidy up that plastic roof a bit, because it gets a lot of leaves on it and you can see it's pretty dirty. So first step was to get up there. Oh, there's cables all over that gable. They've run old cables over the years, old phone cables, and there's other cables, intercom cables running between the house and the other building at the back. So there's a whole heap of cables running up along that gable there, which isn't a problem in itself, but the fixtures they use to hold the cables in place, they tend to rust and they expand and they can mess up your wood. So wanted to pull all the cables off and all the fixtures that hold the cables in place. So you see those, using those big foam, pieces of foam again, polystyrene foam, to spread the weight, it worked really well, because that first horizontal roof you can see there's tin, and that wouldn't take 90 kilos either. But with the polystyrene it did, and the tiles too. And later on, even that plastic roof, we put a fair bit of weight on that plastic roof with the polystyrene there first, and it really spreads the weight really, really well. So some of you might remember a previous project when we stumbled upon that solution, and it really works well. Just spreads the weight out. So two worries we had up there. One was the old guy was going to slide down the roof and go through the plastic roof. That was one worry. And the other one was cracking those tiles, because cracking those tiles would just be, because those tiles sit on a bed of mud that then sits on wood, and you crack those tiles, it's just a pain. It's a pain of a job. So that was the other two concerns. So as it turns out, it wasn't as slippery as we thought it would be, and nothing was damaged because of that foam. So this is actually the next day. So sprayed that gable, and then the next day wanted to clean this roof, and it was raining, and decided, what the hell? Because there's a good chance that roof's actually fiberglass, and it's really flaky. So wanted to do it with water anyway, just to sort of stop the fibres blowing around in the wind. So the fact that it was raining, it was like, well, doesn't matter, does it? So wasn't quite sure how effective this would be. Used a paint scraper on a stick first, and then this interesting arrangement here with the hose, high pressure water, blasting it. And it wasn't bad. It got there was big fungusy things growing up there, and got those off. But as you can see from the big trees there, it's always getting leaves. So up to before and after already. This is a quick job. So there's all those cables. You can see them better there, can't you? All those cables running down the gable there. And the unpainted tin, see the tin wall underneath? That's not painted. That's starting to get a bit rusty. But mainly that gable. If that gable gives up and the water gets in behind it and makes the mud wet, which then gets the wood wet, and then the tiles start to collapse, and that's how roofs collapse. In actual fact, that's what's happening with the neighbour's house. We're going to show you that in another video. The old house next door has been falling down. Big crashing sound recently. We went outside to see what it was, and it was another part of that roof next door falling down. Not our house, the old house next door. So that's going to be another video. We've got a bit of stuff going on next door there we need to show you. Over the next few months, probably, there's be some goings on next door. So the main reason we did it, people can't really see up there terribly much anyway. It's just to preserve it. It's to preserve it so it doesn't give up, because if that wood gives up, we've shown you this on other old buildings before, the water gets underneath and next thing the whole thing's collapsing. So that'll keep its integrity now. That'll be right for another 10 years. And the plastic, couldn't do much with it. Got rid of the big fungusy bits. It's still dirty, but leaves are falling on it all the time. So it's always going to be like this. Eventually, one day, probably we'll pull it down and put up a new plastic roof, but just don't want to spend the money at the moment. It's not really justified. So anyway, there it was, just a quick one. More videos coming soon.